Grant, Alex, thank you very much for joining us. This is the 25th anniversary of FBUK, founded by yourselves as the Institute for Family Business. Can you give us a little bit of context for why you started this organization in the first place?
Well, we've got to wind back to the late 90s, to Switzerland Family Business Network, where Alex and I connected originally. And the idea was surfacing about, how could we form an organization in the UK where family businesses could meet to as a network to share learning and to share knowledge. And so it was a great privilege to meet Alex and to start on the journey thinking about how that might come about.
Yeah, it was. I think the first experience was for me attending one of those very early conferences and sitting in a room full of people who understood the issues that I and my family and other families were dealing with. There's a room full of just peers there who got it. And I felt such a sort of relief and an ability, and I heard the conversations going on, I saw the presentations, were all about the things that I'd been kind of challenged with, but had nowhere to go, nowhere to speak to others in a similar situation. So Grant and I just got talking and said, we don't have this in the UK, why not? Let's do it. And that organization was there to give us the tools and the inspiration to start it. So we got our sleeves rolled up pretty quickly.
So, from what you just said, was actually that event the first time you had both met?
No, we'd met. We'd met through actually through IMD, through Professor Alden Lang, sadly no longer with us, who introduced us, and so we got acquainted that way. But it was the Family Business Network that approached us and said, Alex, myself, and said, "How about having a world conference for family businesses as part of the network here in the UK?" And we just seized the opportunity. It was the year 2000. What a great opportunity, and I think nearly 1,000 people came to London for that conference, which was the springboard to establish what became the Institute as the chapter for the UK, as our own association, independent association, and supported at that stage by 25 companies who rallied together to make that conference actually happen here in London.
Wow.
And I just overlay that, Grant has rightly said, we grabbed it. In fact, he put the pitch and the proposition together and everything. And it was really when we sat down after that and we thought, wait a minute, that's quite a big risk. Because at that time, the organizers locally were responsible for hotel bookings, venues, and it wasn't beyond the realm of possibility that you could have some kind of outrage, some kind of something in London that prevented people coming. And us two would have been exposed. So we thought, that's not really comfortable. This is particularly if these numbers do emerge. And that was the stage where actually we went to all these family businesses that we knew and we said, look, will you help us? Will you underwrite it? And we aim to make a profit from this, and we'll roll that into a new organization. We'll roll the profit in. So that was the catalyst, but also we had 25 members immediately because they were, we presumed they were going to join us, and they did. And many of them are still here.
So what you described about your experience in Switzerland, I mean, when I came on board as CEO and I was very keen to talk to members and understand why they're involved in the network, in different ways, so many people said to me, the kind of base value for being involved was that feeling of walking into a room and not feeling alone. Does that reflect how you were feeling in Switzerland then?
I think in this environment there's a high degree of trust. You're there with peers as family business owners to have those discussions. Behind all of that, there's a lot of underpinning in terms of sharing of knowledge, the sort of business schools in the background and so on. With who are teaching and sharing their learning, but at the network itself, it's about owner to owner. It's by families for families, and in that sense, so you come together for sharing learning, and the topics are pretty obvious. We're talking about things like we're talking about succession planning, we're talking about the governance issues. Family governance. How does that interrelate to your business, and other issues, and more themes started to emerge as topics for debate in what became in 2001 became the Institute for Family Business, as it was founded, independent not-for-profit association. Here in the UK, Family Business UK now.
Yeah.
So
And here we are 25 years later. Did you even envisage then that in 25 years the organization would still be operating? And if you reflect on those 25 years as founders or co-founders, what do you see of the kind of the big events that have taken place over that period?
We definitely assumed we were creating an organization that would extend beyond our direct involvement.
Yeah.
That was actually the foundations we were putting in place. And we were very careful in originally establishing, the constitution, the way it was going to be governed, the way like it was going to be there for a long period. It wasn't just Grant and I. We immediately assembled a board. We had a company secretary. We were camping in London Business School offices somewhere, weren't we? You'll remember that.
I do.
Yeah.
Huntsworth Mews.
Huntsworth Mews, there we go. Has the actual environment for family business changed? Look, we're all still here. Some of us are more multi-generational than we were. Businesses have changed. Businesses have been sold. Businesses have been moved on. Ultimately, I think the issues we're dealing with, the connection, the opportunity we have to still learn from each other, talk to each other, and build a network are still there.
We had that vision that we wanted to see ourselves at some point step out from beyond who we are as a group to look towards advocacy, to talk about what we started to describe as the family business sector. We wanted that to be, on the agenda here in the UK. We wanted to be talked about in all circles, including, out there in political circles too, to be recognized. And for that to take place, we were very lucky and fortunate through our good relationships with a group that existed in parallel to us at the time, which preceded us, called the Unquoted Companies Group. That they were really highly regarded as a sort of as a group of mainly larger family businesses who had set out to put their voice forward on behalf of these businesses, these private family businesses, private in the main, hence the name Unquoted. So eventually it came to the point where I think it was about after 6 or 7 years, I don't recall the exact year, where we merged with them and integrated the two organizations together. And that was really the start of, the outward, the messaging and talking about family business sector, the whole importance of what we are as a whole collective of firms in the UK, small, medium, and large.
I think that was when Ross Warburton was chair.
Yes, it was when Ross was chairing. And, it's an obvious thing, but you can't begin to do that until you've got some critical mass. You can't start with a group of 25 and thinking that you can be a strong advocate. When you're growing and you're attracting all shapes, sizes of family business, then you begin to have some credibility and a proper voice, I think. So it's not surprising that was part of the evolution rather than the initial stage of the organization.
And obviously we wanted to give some rigor to that and underpinning. And so that's where we started to talk about the research and talk about, how do we, talk about our sector in a way that, talks about hard facts, talks about the millions of firms, how many, talk about their contribution to GDP, employment, tax, all these sort of issues that start to talk about, how family businesses contribute to the health of our nation economically, but socially as well, their role in communities. So that whole spectrum of why this is so important for us as a nation, as a sector, that family businesses and the role they're playing.
If Family Business UK didn't exist, what would that have meant for your family business and others?
Well, we'd have to go and invent it again, wouldn't we? Okay, I'll answer it. I'll answer it in two ways. First of all, what we responded to was a perception of an opportunity and a need. So the opportunity and the need would still be there for somebody to say, we should do this. And of course, you can look at exemplars elsewhere and build on that. Speaking personally, I would say that we are I'm fourth, now being succeeded by generation 5. Most of the layers of governance and governance practice and interaction we have with each other and structures in the context of our family, I've observed, I've learned, I've talked to other families about. I've just been like a sponge sitting there. So for us, I guess I'd have read the books, but I wouldn't have had the learned experience of others and the reference points. How did you deal with this? Who did that, and that sort of thing. So it's been personally incredibly valuable for my family and our business. And you know, it's of course there's an element of altruism because I've received so much from being a family business owner, so it's been wonderful to create something that's given back so much. But there's also, I've gained an awful lot of knowledge and experience and friends through it. So it's worked both ways. So I'd miss all that if it didn't exist, and I wouldn't know Grant or you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the community is really the strength of the organization, ultimately, because, learning from others is so important. But as you said, you can lean on all the expertise and all the experience. Could you give us an example of where you've leaned on the Family Business UK community?
I think what I would add, and partly in response to this, is I'd like to bring in the next generation.
Hmm.
Because I think, in terms of multi-generational businesses, I think having that, bringing them into the conversation around, helping them understand where things are going, what it means actually, what it could mean to them, whether they're starting in the business or whether they're just owners looking in from the outside to the business. So that was an area where we created a forum, a space for the next generation to come in, and in our family, in our business family, we really availed of that quite strongly. So our sixth generation, I'm fifth generation, we would come to meetings, and so they would start to see their peers as well, and start to talk the language, but also to understand, the dynamics of what's going on, and help them in how they navigate their lives,
Yeah,
whether they're going to
yeah.
be in the business, working the business, or not.
Learning what it takes to be an effective owner. I think it's just been incredibly valuable for that. Because again, they build a peer group of other people who are going through the same things at their age and stage and that sort of
Yes.
thing. So
Yeah.
the opportunity to learn from each other and build that network, and sometimes, as you say, just go and ask for help. I'm struggling with this. Who can
Yeah.
help me? And that will be the community who absolutely get it, absolutely understand what you're dealing with. And that's when this peer group, I think, is so valuable, because we've all got a wide circle of friends who couldn't help us in these circumstances because the issues are different and they're very pertinent to the ownership of something.
And there's something you just mentioned there about that cohort coming together, that group coming together, that network. It was interesting. In the last few years, we've been setting up communities within our
Yeah.
network.
Mhm.
And the first one we set up was the Next Gen community. Then we set up a Now Gen community. The Next Gen one took a bit of time because actually those were new relationships and new connections. When we set up or I say set up, I used to use those words carefully, set up the Now Gen community, actually that community had been together for years. So they were the Next Gen community who've kind of graduated
Yeah.
into the Now Gen community. So actually that, and those networks and that, I can't really call them alumni, but, that I think is an incredibly powerful asset, I think, for those individuals and those
Mm.
groups.
Yeah, because again, you can refine the agenda to be less generic and more specific
Yeah.
to the issues that actually confront them. So,
Yeah.
and that's again, we're talking about advocacy. It's another sign of the maturation of an organization, because you then can segment into different communities because you just have enough of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best parts about the communities I found out, I'm in the Now Gen community, is I love the roundtable discussions. They're fantastic. Sitting around and, people going around and saying, what are the specific challenges that you're facing today?
Hmm.
And someone will go, oh, we've dealt with that already. We've
Yeah,
done that.
yeah.
This is how we did it. Or I really feel your pain. Here's a few ideas around that. And,
The
so
fees are a total bargain when you're getting advice like that for free, aren't they?
absolutely fantastic value, but it really is very
Noted.
special.
Noted, yeah.
Yeah, very, very special.
I
Yeah.
just thought I'd help out there.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, really special. Yeah.
You mentioned advocacy there, and actually, Grant, when you were talking,
Yeah.
you and with kind of the the unquoted companies group coming on board,
Yeah.
that need for an opportunity for the sector to be represented, better understood and heard by government, by
Yeah.
policymakers, and of course that is now absolutely central to what we do.
Yeah.
Grant, from your perspective, if you think about the political environment
Mhm.
when the IFB was set up 25 years ago compared to where we find ourselves now, what do you see are the big kind of differences or even similarities with what family businesses are now facing?
We were in a period still before the financial crash of relative the growth in the economy, and things were pretty buoyant, or it felt that way. And so confidence, firms in the sector, growing, investing, employment growing. Those were, it was in that sort of environment we started. Obviously, we would, at each sort of cycle of the political cycle, financial, with the budget every year, we'd think carefully about the environment in terms of taxation and what the budget might hold for the sector. Started to pronounce and sort of feed into those debates and with government too, obviously. But times have moved on, but the needs of the family business sector, I think, haven't necessarily changed in terms of it's the requirement for an environment in terms of our nation, the policies that they can invest and they can continue to grow their businesses here in the UK, creating employment that they do. And that's very relevant, particularly to many of our communities. The family business sector doesn't have any sort of regional bias to it. It is absolutely all over the UK. As I said earlier, small, medium, and large. So that hasn't changed. There are issues that are challenging, such as Brexit, in terms of what the impact around, particularly around those trading overseas in Europe. So these challenges have come our way, and family businesses have needed to adapt and respond to them. And that will always be the case for family businesses. We have businesses that have been here for centuries, literally. There's a whole group of them, the tercentenarians and others who have, very long histories, and they have grown and they've been through wars and big changes, that go beyond even economic cycles. So to be a family business, a long-term family business, requires that adaptation, responsiveness, and so that wouldn't have changed.
And that resilience and taking a long-term view as well. Working with government is a key part of our activities at the moment. When we think about the model of family business and family business ownership, what are the aspects of family business ownership that you think would really like government to better understand?
So I think the key to this is understanding long-term stewardship, understanding, these are multi-generational businesses, and for their success and continuation, they require to invest. They do invest over long periods. And in that context is having a stability in terms of our regime, our policies here in the UK that encourage these businesses to continue to invest and to, in the UK, here in the UK, to innovate and to grow and to provide employment and contribute to our communities as well. So it's that stability, and that's that depending on that backdrop so that we can plan for the future, for the long term.
We've been told in the past that sometimes government doesn't find family businesses all that attractive because of that long-term sustainable growth. Sometimes they actually quite like the explosive growth of a startup or a technology company. What would you say in response to that?
I'd say one other dimension to think about it is that family businesses come in all generations. There are early stage family businesses as well, and what's really important is how we have that. In those that are younger, those that are maybe still in the first generation, but could be poised to become family businesses. Maybe there's a second generation. There is the possibility of that succession, that business remains within the ownership of that family, and it's continued and it grows. So I think you need to think about it across that dimension too. And the importance of those business, particularly in terms of innovation, in terms of entrepreneurship, and growing our economy.
I think I just add as well, to me, it's a healthy economy is multi-layered. Of course, you've got your major quoted companies, but to have a healthy, thriving economy, you want companies at all stage of evolution, from tiny little businesses that are corner shops and others, to people working from home, to major corporations. And the family businesses can be any of those, but they're more likely to be in the middle there, which you want to be thriving. You want them to be employing people and contributing to the communities. So a healthy economy has everything in it.
Alex, I'd like to just remind you of something you said to me at our last conference in Manchester as you were leaving. And we had over 300 family businesses there in Manchester. And as everyone was sort of packing up and heading off, you turned around and you said, "We're creating something really special." Now, I don't know if you remember that, but that surprised me because I thought you had created something really special 25 years ago. And the fact that you then said that 25 years later to me, I was thinking, well, I would love to understand what you meant by that.
Oh, I suppose because it would be awful to think the only element of creativity was in a company or an organization in its first few years.
Mm.
The contribution of its board, of its personnel, of its members ought to continue to be creative, to respond to what they see in front of them, and to continue to be an attractive, vibrant, entertaining, fun place as well. You've got to keep on being creative.
Mm.
So I think that's what I meant, is you continue, and it's clear to me by attending the conference, you continue to create and evolve and articulate things differently. And that's what makes people come back for more.
And what I would like to add is, and what makes I think so special is, apart from the great team of people who run the organization, led by yourself, Neil, is the enormous amount of volunteers who are dedicating their time and effort to bring this whole organization, Family Business UK, to life. And let's not underestimate that. And a big shout out for all those who've been involved over this, over the 25 years that we've been here.
Well,
Yeah, I think that's really important, Grant. I mean, you and I were just there at the right time with the right amount of energy and ambition to do the creation. But my goodness, we have had brilliant directors serving alongside us. We've had great leadership all the way through. So yes, we were there at inception, but this organisation is the achievement of so many people and its members.
and everyone's generosity and time. And actually, Sarah's one of our newest board members, so absolutely, I couldn't agree with that more. If we were sitting here in 25 years' time, and
I won't be.
hypothetically, what would you like to be reflecting on the second 25 years in terms of what we've managed to achieve?
I hope to see, and I hope my next generation and next generations and other families see a sector that is still here, strong, and that it is recognized for what it brings to the UK, to the nation economically, but also in terms of what it means to society and to community, as family business, as a force for good in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, and continuing to evolve, continuing to grow, continue to be imaginative and creative around the subject, because again, that's what will keep it vibrant, and I really hope it will still be vibrant in another 25 years' time.
Looking at the community, I mean, it's so clear that people are so passionate about this sector, those within, and even those who sort of are sort of part of it as well. Why do you think that is?
I was talking to a member once, and I was talking to him about serving on a board of a school. And I said to him, it's really interesting serving as fellow directors of people that have a really strong vocation. And he looked at me and said, Alex, everyone in this room's got a strong vocation. We're all family business owners. It is a vocational thing to do. So I think that's my answer. It's not just a job. It's not just something you inherit. It becomes a vocation. And when you do something, when you're involved in something that's a vocation, your motivations are different. Your engagement with it is different. The time you'll give it is different. The enthusiasm, the space it takes up in your head is different. And I think it's a mix of all of that. We do all have a vocation, and that's what makes it special.
And values too. We have family business values which underpin our organizations, and dare I say the sector. It's long term. It's about innovation, entrepreneurship, and it's also about caring for people. So those things, that make family businesses strong.
Yeah, and I think also even in our own family, when I look at this question myself, I think there is nothing more beautiful than doing it together.
Yeah.